award-winning Tennessee Wildcast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee Wildcast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. It's 2021.
Oh, man, I love it.
Man.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And we got Mr. Jason Holland with us today.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be a fun conversation. He's going to come back for another show, too, I think.
I know. I think we've done a couple shows already. We hadn't even started.
Yeah, Jason's a funny guy, and he's a great fisherman, and we're going to talk fishing today, bass fishing mainly. It's wintertime, but we're going to try to get to the basics. It's a new year.
Good place to start.
Good time to start with some of the basics of bass fishing and get folks familiar with rods and reels and line and bait and all that kind of stuff.
Sounds good.
Give a few secrets on how to catch them. And we'll see where it goes.
See what happens.
We're winging it. Jason, it's good to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Don, don't get us confused. Jason.
I know.
Jason Holland, Jason Harmon. It's going to be tough, but
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Well, just throw something at me if you need me to talk or need me to shut up. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
All right.
But anyway.
Well, hey, speaking of basics, I've just met Jason for the first time today. So, Jason, give me a little background. Where are you from originally, and how'd you get into all this stuff?
Well, I'll start a little bit about where I originally came from. I actually grew up in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
Which is surprising with this accent, I understand. But my dad, it still is a traveling minister. So as a kid, we traveled around all over the country, actually. And he wound up taking a church in Detroit when I was, give or take, 6 or 7. So stayed there about 5 or 6 years. And then wound up moving to Tennessee.
Okay.
So you can imagine a kid from Detroit moving to the smallest county in Tennessee, which was Chester County. It had a grand total of 500 people in the entire town.
Wow.
There was more people on my block than there was in the town. But so went through that whole kind of just life change. So you grew up in a concrete jungle. The next thing you know, I'm in a little town, and everybody hunted and fished. And so if you wanted to have friends, you better learn how to hunt and fish. And so that's really where my passion for fishing started, was in high school. Went with buddies. Both of my grandfathers were into fishing. They both made baits. One was into catfishing and one was into crappie fishing. And my dad was into bass fishing. Okay. So just kind of grew up around it and fell in love with it, got a passion for it. And unfortunately, that's now all that I want to do. I got a full-time job, and so trying to always balance, the responsibilities of a home and a family of a real job, but still having that uncontrolled passion for fishing is, I think there's a lot of guys out there that fall into that bucket, just like myself.
I think you're right. You're right.
Well, we went on a little trip not long ago, and if you're listening and watching, make sure you check out our YouTube page. We'll be putting out some videos here pretty soon, fishing with Jason. And you got a nice boat rigged out, got all kinds of cool gear. You're in it to win it. I mean, you got it all. I think it's you're in hardcore for sure.
Well, I am. And the great thing about that whole process, and I think this fits for most fishermen, is that it didn't start there. Right. So my first boat was, like a lot of us, was an aluminum 16-foot John boat that had the motor was me and an oar, and it just had some basic Walmart fishing rigs, and just didn't know really what to do, and I just kind of hopped in the boat, and we had a couple ponds around my house and a couple creeks, and wound up wading creeks and fishing that way, and get out in the John boat. And so as a young teenager, you don't have any money. And there's
more time than money.
Yeah, exactly right. And so I got to, and I think that's really where, when I look now at, I've been fishing pretty much my whole life, and looking back at, those are probably some of the most fun times I really had. Didn't have any expectation. If I caught a fish, it was a great day.
Yeah.
And so now as you progress and you get, you go from one boat to the next, I think I've upgraded probably 8 to 9 times to get what I finally got in my dream boat.
Yeah.
But, what people don't see is all those years behind when you got to go and spend time and learn, and you break things and wreck boats. I've dropped boats off trailers, about sunk 2 boats. Just, you just don't know what you don't know. And I think that's probably the greatest thing about fishing, is that I like to equate it to golf. It's one of those sports that you never hit the top. You're always learning. You can fish till you're 100 and you're still learning something every single day. And that's what, for me, I do competitive bass fish, so I fish tournaments and things, and that's a whole different aspect. But just going out and spending time on the water fishing, I just don't know if life gets any better than those moments. You're catching or not catching, you're still having a blast, and I think that's the true sign of a passion, is when you do it and you don't do very good at it, but you still love it, and that's just kind of where I'm at. I think there's a lot of guys that are that way. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you mentioned just meeting him tonight, but we've met before, and we got to talking, and he's a drummer too. So
no kidding.
Yeah,
he's done it all. It's crazy.
There's so many crazy layers of this onion. I mean, we don't have the time or the tape to get into all those different things. But I played for years. Still play a little bit, but was a studio drummer for about 4 years, and played all the honky tonks on Broadway and on Second.
Yeah.
I played what used to be the Somme Center before it was Bridgestone.
Yeah.
I actually played two concerts there, which was probably the highlight of my drumming career.
Neat.
Had about 30,000 people, so thought I was a rock star and figured out real fast I wasn't.
So who were you playing with when you
mostly
did that?
Either Southern Gospel. I did a lot of Southern Gospel. I, of course, grew up in the church, and that's where I cut my teeth. And then a lot of Black Gospel. And so actually went 2 years to community college, but then I went 2.5 years to a place called Indiana Bible College, which was a kind of a minister, preacher, as well as they had a whole section of music, and I went there for the music side of things. So got to travel all over the country and playing for gospel groups, and it was a great great time. If I was good enough, I would still be doing it, making a living at it, but I had a lot of passion and not a lot of skill. So,
Jason and I can both vouch for the fact that music opens up tons of doors. I mean, I'm sure you can relate to that.
Absolutely. And it's funny that we're supposed to be here talking about fishing, but the music, anytime you kind of get into a specific industry, if you can dial that in and build those relationships, because everything moves at the speed of that relationship. And so doors got opened musically because of I knew this person who knew that person who knew that person. And so now my older brothers is still we moved to Nashville in the early 90s, and he's been in the music business ever since then and been on tour with, you name it, Florida Georgia Line, Dierks Bentley, Kanan Smith, and he's still in that business. Of course, it's been the last year has been pretty tough for because of COVID. But so we both kind of were in that music vein. He stayed in that, and then I kind of went off and chased a corporate job because I have, wife and children and bills, and so he's single
and a boat passion and a fishing passion.
I mean, everything we're talking about takes a massive amount of money, and unfortunately,
except today we're going to show him how we can do it. We can do it.
Absolutely, you can do it. You don't have to go out and have a $500 rod and reel set up to have not only a great time but actually enjoy your passion, and that's. Again, I keep going back to golf, but it's the same way. You don't have to go out and buy a $1,000 set of ping irons. You can go to your local used, play it against sports and pick up a nice set of clubs and go out and have fun. And it's really it's the progression. You definitely don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars to get into fishing. Literally, you can go take about $50 and go to a Walmart or Academy or Bass Pro and pick you up a rod and reel combo and a few baits and. Obviously, buy your fishing license.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Buy your fishing license.
GoOutdoorsTennessee.com.
There you go. Nice shameless plug there. But, you don't have to go out and just spend a bunch of money. And especially with COVID, because now, obviously, a lot of people have wanted to go out and explore the outdoors.
Sure.
Things have slowed down. Life is basically reset.
Yeah.
And so we've all seen just an overall uptick in people want to get out, just in RV sales and fishing sale, just a whole outdoor experience. And so you take a guy that's, it's got a family, it's got a couple kids. He doesn't have a bunch of extra money, especially everything we went through, a bunch of extra money to go out and spend thousands of dollars to try to get into something. But you don't have to. Go get your fishing license, set aside, $25 a week for a month, and then you can go and basically rig out yourself, your wife, your couple kids, and you can go out and explain. And the thing, it's not, yes, we all want to go and catch fish, and we're going to talk about how to catch fish. But it's more than just the actual fishing and the actual catching of that fish. It's the overall experience. I mean, they write country songs about it. There's no better time. And of course, I've got an older child, but I've still got some younger ones at home. And that's whenever I ask them, hey, what do you love to do? And it's go fishing with Dad.
That's good.
It's not Disney World. It's not wherever that we take them, which they enjoy. But that one-on-one time that you can get with them, sitting on the side of a bank or in a john boat or wherever you're fishing. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's that experience. And,
Making that memory.
yeah, and that's what ultimately matters. Because when we're all old and decrepit and can't get out of the chair, those memories that we got with our children, that we built in them and instilled in them, that's ultimately when it all boils down, that's what really matters.
They're going to remember it. They're going to remember it.
Yeah.
We went fishing this past summer at Bledsoe Creek here in Middle Tennessee. My son caught a bass.
Yeah.
And then just this week he said, "Hey, let's see if Mom and my sister will stay home and we can go back up to Bledsoe and catch some fish." So he's already trying to drag me out there. So I just need to do it.
Yeah, you just got to. It's a little cold right now to go out there, but hey, I mean, the tougher the challenge, the more they remember it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's there's something about fishing. I don't know. I think it's just how the good Lord made us. There's something about hunting and fishing that not only does it reconnect you with nature, but it's one of those experiences that when you do it with someone else, especially someone else that you love, it just forms a bond and you go back to those memories. I don't know how it works. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. I just know it works.
Yeah.
And some of the fondest memories I have of my grandfather was not Christmas time with a bunch of gifts. It was sitting in his basement pouring fishing waste to go catch catfish. Or going, they lived in Kentucky. We'd go below the dam and we'd catch crappie. And they were hardcore. There was no talking, there was no radio. I mean, these were old school fishermen that
we're catching supper.
Yeah, we're catching fish.
Coming home with us.
Yeah, if you talk, if you make too much noise, then you're going to scare the fish, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it doesn't matter.
If you ever fish with this guy, you know it's going to be a loud trip. No.
Yeah,
my granddad said the same thing.
Yeah, and maybe it's just that generation. Looking back on it, the way I figured fishing, especially if you're getting young ones into fish, into that whole process, what I figured out, especially with my own kids, is for me, I love to go bass fishing. And if I go out and I catch 5 or 6 in a day, maybe 10, it is a fantastic day.
Yeah.
You catch 4 or 5 fish in a day with a kid, they're going to jump out and swim back to shore, and they're ready to go home. They got the short attention span. So what I figured out with my own kids is go to a place, a pond, a lake, wherever, that's full of small panfish. Go get a little bit of worms or some grubs or something that you're going to get. And get them out there. They don't care how big the fish is.
Yeah.
They care less how it pulls. They don't care about any of the stuff that we care about. They just want to be able to reel that thing in and look at it, take pictures with it.
Yeah.
So if you got kids and you're trying to get them into fishing, if you're into bass fishing, don't take them bass fishing first time. They'll be miserable. And their memories their first few times going fishing will be, hey, you got to be quiet and you're not going to catch many fish. Take them out, go get some crickets, and just absolutely slay them. And that's the memory that they're going to remember. They don't care about any of the stuff that we care about, and it's paid dividends.
And that'll keep them coming back.
Yeah, I mean, you want that first memories to be, man, we went and caught a bunch of fish, and it was not boring and be quiet, and if you talk, you're going to get hit, hit with a rod.
Yeah, the last hunting trip was, there was a lot of talking. There was no deer, a lot of talking.
Kind of makes me think about the winter trout program, too, I mean, that's another opportunity. In this even in the colder weather, you can take the kid out and hopefully use some natural bait or whatever and catch some of those things, take them home and eat them.
Yeah.
Well, and especially when you take it to that point, and when you're actually, to your point, Don, is when you're taking it home and you catch it, you clean it, you eat it, that whole circle or that whole process, it's built into our DNA. And there's something about, for myself, I make a lot of my own baits. And there's something when I go in my garage and I pour a jig and I make the head and put the hook in it and I paint it and I build the skirt and the whole process, and then to take that and go out to the lake and actually catch a fish on something that I made, it elevates the whole process. And that is when you're talking about panfish and you're catching crappie or bluegill and then you have a fish fry, and that pride, especially if you got a younger child, that pride that they get from, hey, I caught this, and now we're eating it. Again, it just elevates the whole experience. And that's what you want. I mean, you want them enjoying the whole process. That's what keeps them coming back. Yeah. And then hopefully they have kids and teach your grandkids, and that whole circle just keeps on going.
Well, before we run out of time,
are we already out of time?
No, we're not.
Thank God. Listen, I can talk, as you guys have figured out. Talking is not the issue. Keeping me on track is going to be the problem.
Well, we're going to jump.
We were talking rods and reels, right?
Right, rods and reels.
Yeah, all right.
So you've brought some rods and reels with us. We're going to focus on basic bass fishing today, or introducing you to bass fishing, and we're going to talk about rods and reels. So you got a lot of reels laying in front of you.
I do. So
take it away.
So a couple things we're going to before we jump into them, so what I brought today was bait casting reels. So there's bait casting, there's spinning reels, and then there's the old Zebco 33, the old push button, which most of us start on.
Yeah.
And I didn't bring any of those to talk about, but we'll kind of talk about those a little bit.
Did you bring your Snoopy rod or your Barbie rod?
I actually brought my Lord, what do they call it? The Frozen.
Okay.
Yeah. My daughter was
Right.
so her
Let it
first-
go. Let it go.
Let it go. After I bought that rod and took my daughter out with it, that's exactly what I was saying. Honey, we gotta let that thing go. We are struggling. We're gonna have to invest $10 instead of $5 next time because this is. But today we're gonna focus on the Baitcaster. Hopefully, if they don't kick me out and let me come back and do a show, we'll talk about spinning reels and some other things. But today we're gonna talk about Baitcasters.
Okay.
And they can be a little overwhelming if you go into a Bass Pro or an academy or somewhere and you see a whole rack of bait casting reels. You're like, what in the world am I supposed to be using? Especially if it's kind of in your first time or you haven't fished that much. It can be a little overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. I believe strictly in the old KISS method to keep it simple, stupid, and turn around and get just the basic all-around reel. So what I've got for those that are watching is a bait casting reel, but when you look at them, there's a couple things you want to look at. First of all, you want to look at the size of the reel. So these are
profile? Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Exactly. So these are low profile reels that I've got here, but they make bigger profiles, kind of like the open faced, the old what they used to have before these came out, which we all grew up on. It looks kind of like a miniaturized deep sea fishing reel.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Those are tough. I mean, that's what I first started fishing with. I'm like, I'm never going to learn how to throw this thing because it is not easy. But like everything else with technology, it's gotten better and much easier. And so these reels, they fit your hand a lot better. But what you want to look at is the bait casting reel, but you want to look at what's called the gear ratio. And this is where everybody gets, it can be a little confusing. All a gear ratio means it's much like think of a 10-speed bike. And so the different gears, depending on, you can get more torque, more speed by changing gears. And same thing with the reel.
Okay.
So the higher the gear ratio, the more line it's going to pick up every full turn of that reel. All right, so I'm not going to overcomplicate this. The higher the gear ratio is, the more line every time you turn it, it's going to pick up. They got them anywhere from 5.3 to 1. And when you see that 5.3 to 1 or 6.2 or 6.4, 7.1, on and on and on, and it says 0.1, what that's saying is it's going to pick up those many inches per one turn of the handle.
Okay.
So what you want to look for is a middle-of-the-road gear ratio. So you want something that is in the 6, so 6.1, 6.2, 6.4 to 1. That's a great all-around reel. It's not too fast. It's not too slow. It's just as basic as it gets. And you can absolutely fish with anything you want to with that gear ratio.
Okay.
So when you look at it, look for 6 point something to 1.
Okay.
That's pretty simple.
So why would you want to have a higher ratio or lower ratio? That because of the bait you're throwing?
Everything gear ratio revolves around bait. So sometimes you want to pick up a bunch of lines. So say, for instance, you're fishing a worm, just a plain Texas rig worm. We've all seen those. When you pick that up, you raise it up and the bait falls back down, you got all this slack that you just picked up with your reel, with your line, with your rod.
Right.
So now you got the slack. So you got to get that slack up. And so the faster you can pick up the slack, the more you'll be able to fish that bait effectively. So you can jump to a 6.4 or an 8.3 to 1, and all you're doing is just picking up slack. On the reverse side of that, say you want to fish a bait real slow. And if you're like me, pretty high strung, you have a tendency to go way too fast. I want to try to get that cast out, get it in, do it again, over and over and over, trying to catch the fish. Well, especially this time of year, it's a prime example. Is everything in the water is moving slow. It's cold. They're lethargic. Everything is just slowed down dramatically. And so if you got a bait that's just burning through there, it doesn't look natural at all. And so if you get a situation, say you're fishing a crankbait, that you want to go real slow, you want to try to match what the bait fish are doing, that just slow movement, get a gear ratio that's slower. And so even if you don't have the physical ability to slow down like I do, that gear ratio will basically force you, because you keep spinning at the same speed you always done, but everything slows down. And so again, those are the nuances, or those are the additional tricks that you can learn. But if you're just getting into fishing, say you're just getting into golf, you're just trying to hit the ball straight. We're not trying to do a fade or anything crazy. all you want to do is to get that middle of the road.
6.1, 6.4.
You got it.
Okay.
6.1 to 6.4 to 1. Mm-hmm. That's really where you want to stay. If you stay in that, you're going to be absolutely fine.
Don's already scrolling Amazon over trying to find him.
Got it. Yeah, I've ordered 2 already.
You've brought a few in with you. We're not promoting any brands or anything really. Maybe you are. I don't know. What's your favorite rod and reel? But show us what you got there and the differences and whatnot.
Sure. So these are Lew's reels. I'm a big fan of Lew's.
Raise it up a little bit.
Yeah, raise it up a little bit.
Hey,
there you go.
Here
right
you
there.
go.
There you go.
Everybody can see it now. I'm on a televised
Radio
show. Too
Yeah,
many
if
things
you're
for
listening-
my forebrain.
If you're listening, tune in.
So these are Lew's. Not sponsored by Lew's. I buy them just like everybody else does. But I found they're my favorite reel.
Mm-hmm.
Shimano makes a good reel. Abu Garcia makes a good reel. Bass Pro, their brand is a fantastic reel. And
I
actually,
throw a pro qualifier. I like it.
Listen, I've fished pro qualifiers for 10 years.
Yeah.
Love them. And you can, especially if they do when coming up and they're spring fishing, you can pick them up for $50-$60.
Yeah.
Is that as cheap as you can get, say, a Black Max at Walmart? No, you can get them about $30-$35. But again, it's just really where your budget is.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you don't have to go out and spend $300 on a fishing reel to get a good reel. But a couple things about the reels. So they make all different types of reels within a bait caster. So I'm not going to get too far in the weeds, but when you look at them, you're going to have some that are made for real heavy-duty fishing. So say you're fishing a frog at the grass down in Gunnersville, Alabama. Super thick grass. You need something just to absolutely winch those out. Or you're fishing, say, a big swim bait on chick, and you're throwing a 2-3 ounce swim bait. You need a heavier duty reel. And so actually, this Lew's reel says on the side of it, the name of it is Super Duty. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory.
That's the
I'll take
HD
this.
version right
Yeah,
there.
if you need something, and all
The
that
1 ton.
Yeah, all that really means is that everything is beefed up. The gears are beefed up. The drag is beefed. It's just a more heavy duty.
So you mentioned drag, and I want you to hit on that because that's some things that goes
Yes.
along with a bait caster that you need to know about.
That's actually that'd be a great time to talk about.
Okay.
It. So you've got 3 knobs on a bait caster reel. You got the little star right here next to the reel handle. That is your drag. So drag, you got to think about drag as when you pull on that. So say you catch a bigger fish and you got that drag super tight, meaning that you can't pull that line off the spool of the reel. Mm-hmm. What happens is if you get a bigger fish and you got him coming in, all of a sudden he makes a big hard run. If you got that drag real tight, well, the line has nowhere to go. It doesn't have any give. It's going to snap it. So all your drag really is basically think of it as it helps like a rubber band. So it's part of the overall system of a rod and reel. Your rod gives you that parabolic bend like a big rubber band. Your drag is kind of that second line of defense. So your rod will absorb. If he takes a big pull right when he gets, especially smallmouth on Dale Hollow, they're a prime example.
Yeah.
You'll fight him. You think, I got this sucker licked. Gets right up to the boat. He sees the boat and figures out, hey, he's hooked. Man, he is wide open.
Or here's you.
Yeah. Or hear me banging, screaming, yelling. It's usually what happens. They'll turn around. They'll make a real big hard run, try to go deep again. Your rod will absorb a lot of that stress, but your drag is kind of that second line of defense. So you want that, as he pulls, that drag to give a little bit and allow him to pull some line so you're not snapping line.
Sure.
So that's a real high-level drag presentation.
Yeah.
Then the next piece that you got on a bait caster is you got 2 brakes. You've got the little small knob right next to your reel.
Bring it up a little bit.
Oh, here we go.
There we go.
They're going to fire me before I even get started. You got the little tension knob here, and you got the magnetic brake on the side.
Gotcha.
You got a couple, some of them have them on the side where you can turn. Some you have to take off the cover and adjust. But most reels nowadays have got this magnetic kind of turn.
And mine's got like 10 adjustments. Is that about what that has or something like that normally?
It does.
Okay.
Exactly 10.
Well, that's why I'm
You're
here.
a mind reader.
Yeah, I'm the expert novice.
Thank the Lord we got the expert with us. We'd be in trouble. But all that these 2 knobs do is, when I first started fishing, trying to learn to throw a bait caster was brutal. So just get ready for at least a couple months of being aggravated the whole time because you're just going to do nothing but backlash over and over and over.
I spent hours in the driveway and in the backyard throwing it, just practicing.
Yeah. Well, and you still have to learn. Don't get me wrong. It just doesn't magically happen, though there are some reels out now that are super expensive, actually have microchips in them. Shimano makes one for like $600.
Wow.
That you literally can throw it against the wall with your finger off of it and it won't backlash.
Oh, wow.
We're not going that route.
That's not fishing.
Nah, it's kind of like cheating. It's like cheating. You gotta get out and get mad and break things because you can't learn a baitcaster. That's just part of the process.
You're not fishing until you've cleaned out a bird nest.
That's exactly right. But what's happened over years in the technology, they've really helped that whole process, especially for the guy that's getting into fishing, that's used to throwing the push button Zebco 33, which is fine. We all started there.
Oh, yeah.
But the technology has come along. So basically all these two knobs do is one, when you first cast your line, you know how it starts to come off the spool. One knob helps that process. The other knob actually helps when it hits the water and all that kinetic energy comes back up into your reel. From it's spinning. The spool's spinning real fast, and then all of a sudden it stops. The other magnetic brake is to help with that. And so you got it when it first goes off the reel, and you got it when the bait actually hits the water.
Yeah.
And so we won't go into a big tutorial of how you adjust those. Go to YouTube. YouTube's fantastic. It'll teach you how to figure out how to dial those in. But just note, all those are magnetic brakes to help slow down the spool from spinning and getting a bunch of backlashes.
I mean, I'm one of those weekend fishermen, so I kind of keep mine on the low end because I can't handle it being wide open. I'll bird nest it every time.
Well, here's what I did for many, many years, and what I recommend. Well, we'll talk about drag here in a second again, but tighten them down. When you first got it, you're not going to get any distance. You're going to throw about 10 yards, which is fine. You're learning. But tighten it down, and so you're not dealing with a bunch of bird's nests. And once you kind of get that, you start feeling pretty good, and you're doing that pretty good, then just back them off, both of them, just a little bit. And then now you go from 10 yards to 15 yards in your cast. And all that you do is you just build a confidence level that, you've done it, you know what it feels like, you know what to expect, how you stop the spool with your thumb, and you just gradually work into it. And then you'll get to a point when it just becomes second nature. You don't even think about it. But talking about drag, one little tip I will give you is on your drags, at the end of the day, make sure you back them down. Don't leave them tight, because if not, there's little washers in there that will turn around and they'll eventually warp, and you'll lose your drag. So there's a pro tip of the day for you.
All right.
When you get done. Only thing is, don't forget to tighten your drags when you go fishing again.
Or you'll be,
That first cast would be a nasty
It'll
one.
be So apparently Jason has turned on the music, which means we're out of time. We didn't even talk about reels.
You're learning fast.
Shit.
Man, first time on Wildcasting, he knows when we're getting out.
Hey, you brought your rods. Show them one
All right,
anyway.
let's talk about rods real fast.
And then next show, we're going to cover them in depth.
All right, so
You got a minute.
I got 1 minute. I better hurry up real fast. Baitcasting reels. This is a baitcasting rod. We're gonna go out and get a rod. Get a 7-foot medium heavy with the fast action. If you don't know what that means, go to YouTube. It'll tell you that's the best all-around rod for anything that you want to do. 7-foot medium heavy power, fast action. Check out casting rods if you're looking. They're my favorite.
Yeah, and come back next week, or the next time we have Mr. Jason Holland with us.
Yeah.
We're going to go in depth.
I'm looking forward to that.
All right, good.
Well, I didn't
Good
get kicked
deal.
out my first time.
No,
so,
you're coming
hey.
back. You're coming back because we got to cover that at least, and then we'll see what happens. At Jason Holland Fishing.
At Jason Holland Fishing. Check us out on
Across the
Facebook
board.
and on Instagram. And
right.
YouTube.
Awesome. All right. Well, keep coming back. Keep watching this show. Keep listening to this show. We're going to have Jason back down the road. We're going to cover all kinds of cool things 2021. So keep coming back. Don, thank you.
You bet.
Jason, thank you.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time on Tennessee Wildcast.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee Wildcast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.